and I'm going to try to get it live on Facebook. So there's a few moving parts here that we got to do. Jay-Z is just J-A-Y space Z, right?
J-A-Y dash Z.
Dash Z. Did somebody just get on our call? No, I don't think so, huh? All right, but I do think that, well, we're not live yet. We're about to be. Okay, we're about to pop it here, brother. You ready?
Yeah, man.
All right, I'm going to go first. You just sit by until the intro's done.
Okay, dope.
So let me think through this real quick. I go from here. All right, stand by. All right, folks, we are live on Cliff's Notes, and you're about to meet the Jay-Z. That's right, the Jay-Z of real estate. Coming up next, right here on Cliff's Notes.
Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind?
One more time. Did you like that intro?
Yeah.
It was okay, but I don't think it was enthusiastic enough. I think we should do it again. All right,
okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Ladies
I'm ready.
and gentlemen, one more time, the Jay-Z of real estate from Rock and Roll Hall of Fame town itself, Cleveland, Ohio, coming up next on Cliff's Notes. Here we go.
Dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it.
Yeah, that's right. I guarantee it, my friends. And here we are, himself live, none other than, guess who, Mr. Albie Stasek, all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. How you doing, my brother?
What's up, Uncle Cliffy? How you doing, brother?
Man, it's good to see the Jay-Z of real estate back there, and I see you got the man himself on your wall behind you there, huh?
Yeah, he's watching over us, making sure we're keeping it real here. How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing fantastic. You know, you and I were talking for a minute before the call here, and I think you were saying that Jay-Z has actually got some business wisdom, and you were going to share that with us. What's his thing, man?
Well, you know, obviously you've been a part of our inner circles forever. You brought me into the inner circle. Actually, we'll get into that, I suppose, later. But we're big on personal branding, and nobody's done it better than Mr. Jay-Z. And he's quoted in saying, and we literally use this to coach real estate agents when we talk about, you know, their personal brand and why it's so important to grow their personal brand, is that Jay-Z says, I'm not a businessman, I am the business man, meaning he is the business, he's the brand, he's everything behind the Jay-Z brand, just like, and we just, you know, we hope that real estate agents, you know, kind of catch that as a big lesson, because that's kind of was a big turning point for me when I kind of turned from being trying to be the best realtor to the best marketer. And that's kind of when everything kind of changed.
Yeah, well, I think a good mutual friend of ours is famous for saying it's not the best realtor who's going to win, it's the best marketer, right?
Yes.
Is that a Reeseism?
That sounds like a Reeseism, yeah. There's so many of them.
Yes.
I lose track, but it's a great, it's a great lesson for anybody listening on this. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent, that's a writer downer. Or if you are an agent, you don't know it yet, it isn't your company that you're working for, it's the brand, you are the brand.
I like that, a writer downer. And in fact, if you're watching right now, make sure you've got a fresh pen, fresh ink, and a fresh piece of paper, because you're going to have a lot of writer downers on this show, right, Al?
We hope so.
I hope so,
We're gonna
for
do
sure.
our best.
Absolutely. So for the audience members who don't know you, and there's probably not very many who haven't at least heard of you, you know, you are kind of a legend in your own time here. But, you know, just to go back a little bit, gosh, you guys have done some incredible things lately. And, you know, I'd really like for the audience to get to know a little bit more about Al. So let's rewind the tape here a little bit and take me back, Al, to that time and tell us the story about where you were in life, what you were doing when you had that zero moment of truth and you knew that real estate was calling you? When was that?
Well, the exact year, I want to say it's somewhere around 96 or 7, somewhere between 96 and 7. I had just kind of ended my my first career as a over the road long haul truck driver. I was a Cleveland State student for about a year and a half, 2 years. It wasn't the direction for me. I wanted to get into the workforce and make money. So a friend of mine referred me to into the trucking industry. And I kind of just went, you know, from working from the docks and loading the trucks all the way up to driving them, and thought that that would be fun. I was super young at the time. I was in my early 20s, and didn't have much tying me down, you know? So kind of got that out of my system, saw the country, drove semi for a while, and, you know, kind of started figuring out that, you know, I'm hitting a ceiling on the income. There's really something better. So I actually took the summer off. At the time, I had long hair all the way down to here. You probably would never recognize me, you know, at the time. And I just basically rode my motorcycle to the beach every day, trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I took a job as a landscaper with my buddy's company who he owned. And I think what it hit me was, I was literally in, it was a $1 million neighborhood here in the suburbs of Cleveland, a suburb called Westlake. And one of our clients was a doctor, and I was literally on my knees in his front flower bed picking weeds into a bucket. And I looked up and I saw his two children were in like the picture window looking at me. And then I was looking up at them, and I'm looking at the bucket. And that was probably the moment where I was just, you know, I had enough. And I got in that truck. I really didn't say anything to anybody. I was kind of just in this real weird zone. I signed up for real estate classes like that night. And, you know, my dad was a real estate agent. He worked the docks as well, but he did the real estate thing with Century 21 part-time. That's all I ever knew was my dad out there hustling. Hustled during the day, hustled during the night, just so we could have vacation money. So that's kind of how I was introduced to the real estate world. It definitely, and you could probably speak to this, Coach, it's not what it is today. Back in the 80s and even somewhat the 90s, it's transformed into it's a lot more friendly than it was then. Back then it was male dominated. It was very harsh, you know, people smoking in the office. It just wasn't a friendly environment. I wanted nothing to do with it, actually. I swore I would never become a realtor. And as luck or fate would have it, here we are today. So that's kind of how, that was the point. And so I was licensed in 98.
So how was it? Was that, I'm trying to remember if we still had MLS books back then, because it was definitely before Al Gore invented the internet. Let's see, how were brokers trading information about their listings back then?
So they did have the books, but they also had this, I'm not the most computer savvy, but I think it was like a DOS dial-up private server computer. There were no pictures. It was just this really hard to read, small MLS printout sheet. And I remember at our real estate office, there was one computer. No one had computers then. There was one computer. It was in the hallway, and we used to line up person to person in the hallway to just use the one computer to print out whatever listings we needed to print out for showings or comps or whatever we needed. And you just got in line and you stood there. And if you got out of line, you lose your spot. So that's kind of how I came in. I feel like a dinosaur.
That's crazy. So what was the average sales price? Do you remember, or can you even remember that far back? That's so long ago. Gosh.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was around 75, 80 grand. And, you know, that was in the market that I was working, which is a suburb of Cleveland called Parma. That's where I was born and raised. I'm still there.
Yeah.
You had to sell a lot of real estate to make any money where I'm from.
You know, we've gotten quite a raise since those days, huh?
A little bit. Yeah.
So how was that first year? How'd it go for you, man? Did you just come out of the gate crushing it? How was it? How'd you do your first year?
Well, I took a job when I got my real estate license. I needed to still pay bills. So I took a job as a collector, and I was on a dialer with a headset, and I was collecting on delinquent mobile home loans. And from my states were Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. And I was obviously calling from Cleveland. And needless to say, there was a lot of people who weren't paying their bills on time. So I had lots of people to call. And so that was how I got over call reluctancy. I didn't, when you're on a dialer and your goal is to make over 100 calls a day and make a certain amount of connections and then collect a certain amount of money, it becomes a game. You have to gamify it. But I got hung up on, swore at, you name it. So I was kind of numb to that. So when I came my first year, my goal was to get 2 transactions under contract and pending at the same time so that I could quit my job, which is exactly what I did. Probably before the ink was dry on my second contract, I was like, see you later. I was working for Chase Manhattan. And then I hit the ground. I came out, I started calling expireds. And one of the first listings I took, it was a double listing. I listed I didn't even think about how ironic it is the first listing I took was a mobile home park for like $700,000. It wasn't the mobile home, it was a mobile home park. I called off of an expired, and then he threw me another listing. The same guy owned a piece of land for like $400,000. So I came in, I used to wear a 3-piece suit every day, used 1982 Mercedes is what I was driving. And I came strutting into that Century 21 office with my 2 listings, put those babies up on the board. Neither of them sold, didn't matter. They both expired again because they were grossly overpriced. But that's kind of how I got my start. Didn't know anything, just went after it. Went after expireds, went after for sale by owners, listed anybody that would say yes to me, I took it. And that's kind of how I started. I started really scouring, it was Realtor Magazine because the internet wasn't really a thing then, trying to figure out, like, is there a shortcut to all this? And I ordered some Craig Proctor stuff and got the coaching in a box there. That's kind of where I started my education, is to like trying to just find a better way. Obviously that led to many other things, but that's how I got my start.
Wow. So even early on though, you recognized the need for some outside help, coaching, mentoring, that type of thing. Well, let's fast forward a little bit, move the clock up to 2007. So what happened in 2007, Al?
So in 2007, I went and helped, probably about 6 years prior to that, I went and joined a college buddy. We did a startup. It was a discount brokerage local here in Cleveland. And we rode that pony till, we had kind of let's say our core values weren't in alignment any longer. And I had to make a split. I went to Remax and I started my team in 2007, having zero idea that the real estate market was about to collapse. Had no idea.
Yes.
I was buying websites, trying to build my business on a credit card, thinking, hey, look, I've grinded it out this far. I've been fine. I didn't know what was coming. And then of course the crash happened. So after the crash, or during, the recovery, if you will, in 2010, I was bloodied, limping, but still alive, barely. I blew through every bit of my savings that we had. And so I had no money. I was in deep debt. And, but I started being able to string some sales together enough to where my bills were being paid barely. And then I got an email from our mutual friend, Jay Kinder. And that really is kind of what changed everything. They introduced me to you. You started really showing me a shortcut and a better way to grow my real estate business. And I had no idea. And then you were like, Al, you got to get to the conference. You got to get to the conference. And I'm like, I don't got any money to go to this conference. He's like, figure it out. And so, that year, 2010 was literally a pivotal turnaround year, when I met you and Mike and Jay. So,
yeah, boy.
Yeah.
I remember those days. Those were the good old days. That was the beginning of Kinder Reese, and what great things happened with that group, man. I'll tell you, we had a ball. So, so 2007. So you started your team at probably, most people would say, the worst time that you could possibly start a real estate team. What did you learn from going through the Great Depression that we suffered in the housing industry in those years?
There was a lot of lessons. I mean, we could probably spend a couple hours, and I know we don't have that kind of time, but there were a lot of lessons. And I think a few of them off my cuff, seeing as that we're, about to go into potentially another, downturn. Who knows how long, how deep, but we're gonna get hit with something here. Is I learned that if I were to have to do it all over again, that you need to cut expenses fast and cut them deep, and stack cash if you have the ability to do that. I learned that you know, when you're looking down the tunnel and you see hell, that there is going to be you know, you're going to make it. You know, there were times where I couldn't sleep because I didn't know how I was going to make my mortgage payment. I was literally putting stuff on credit cards, and then I was paying this credit card to pay another credit card. So, you know, what I knew though is I wasn't gonna file bankruptcy because my ego wouldn't allow me to. I probably should have, looking back at it, but I was like, nope, ain't gonna do that. And so I just dug harder, ran faster, hustled harder, worked longer, and it was hell. It was one of those things where I look back, I don't even like talking about it so much because it's those lessons that you don't ever want to ever learn again, you know, but sometimes you got to, you know, walk through hell to learn them, and you got to feel a sting. I mean, let's face it, you were in the business in 2003, 4, 5. I mean, it was easy to sell a house, kind of like what it's been the last couple of years here. You didn't really even have to be good. Learn how to open up a lockbox, you know, do your listing presentation, get good at it. I mean, you could do it. What that did was it tested you. Could you counsel a seller through a short sale? Could you counsel a buyer through hanging in there through a short sale? And, you know, I learned empathy, something that when I was in my 20s and probably even early 30s, that it wasn't really showing up in my life too much, you know, but when you get humbled like that, empathy was another big thing that I just learned to develop, you know, it's a maturity process, you know? And so I learned a lot.
Yeah, you know, what you said resonated with me. You kind of go from being a transaction jockey to more of a relationship manager, and you're counseling people. Gosh, I remember times when I was giving people advice and I wondered if I had the right license. Maybe I needed a different type of license to be working with these folks. But, you know, when somebody's about to lose their house and you're their only hope, you know, through a short sale or you know, something like that. And, you know, back in those days, and it really hasn't been terribly long ago, but we didn't have the government rushing in right away, you know, with help like the PPP, the payroll protection plan, and some of the loans that we're hoping, you know, they just got it refunded. But the idea is for that money to go directly now in relatively short order to help small businesses, including real estate agents. But, you know, back then it was almost like a slow, painful death, man. I mean, the housing market dropped quick, but it was pretty slow to recover. I mean, it lasted 3-4 years, you know, before we started to see any return to, you know, as we say, some semblance of normalcy. But what do you see as different about this one? You know, you and I were talking just a bit before the show about our local markets. What's going on up in Cleveland right now?
You know, Cleveland's never been a market that sees really sharp highs and really low lows. It's not to say that it doesn't follow the national market trends, because it does. It just does it gradually. And so, you know, where maybe Florida and Arizona and California saw steep inclines and declines, our curve is just a little less harsh. Right now, though, we're not seeing any. I'm really not feeling it anyway. I mean, our real estate team's still cranking away. We're selling more than a house a day at this point, and I didn't expect that. When all this started, I was very concerned. I thought that we were going to see a sharp decline in sales. Here, there's still sales happening. We're doing a lot of virtual showings. We're doing a lot of virtual listing appointments. There is some shadow inventory here in Cleveland, meaning there's people who, for safety reasons and health reasons, just don't want to put their home on the market yet. So what that could be doing is obviously causing a shortage of supply. And so the demand's still there for now. I think what'll be interesting is when everything opens back up, or even partially opens back up, you know, mid-May to June, you know, I see what's going to happen is we're going to have a rush. We're probably going to have the best second, third quarter that we've seen in a while, because a lot of sales that were supposed to be maybe already happening and listings, it's all going to be hitting, you know, in that, let's call it, you know, 4-month period of time of summer. You know, if you stayed with your nose to the grind, if you're an agent who've continued your lead generation, continued your calls, continued keeping in touch with people, I think you're going to be pretty pleased. But I would also caution to say, make sure you stack your cash. You know, you might make, you know, over the next four, maybe 5 months, you may make some really nice commissions and some sales and be feeling pretty good about yourself. I'd highly recommend that you stack cash, store your nuts for the winter, because what we don't know is if the second wave is going to hit, you know, in fall, and we believe it will be hitting. It's not even if it will, it'll be hitting, you know, whether it be November, December. We just don't know how severe. So,
Yeah.
you know, that would be my advice to anybody. That's what I'm giving to my agents. I'm taking my own advice, and that's what I'm going to be doing as well.
Right. Well, and you know, my hope is if we do get a second wave, and there's talk about that at least we have an experience curve now. We know a little bit more about who it impacts, how long, and so forth. And so maybe our government, if it's possible, we got a little bit wiser about how they could sort of slow that down. Maybe not shutting the entire economy down. I mean, you know, who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens. But you know, in Dallas, I can tell you, we've had a very robust economy here. Many corporate headquarter relocations, Charles Schwab, Liberty Mutual, Toyota moved here, and it continues to be kind of a mecca for business who are fleeing the high taxes on the coasts and the political situations, the old infrastructure. They're coming here. It's affordable, business-friendly climate environment. So we really haven't seen a hit to prices. But just to kind of go back to economic school, what I see has happened here is we've had a shift in both the supply and the demand curve. And what that results in is a reduction in the number of homes sold. We just saw that. The lady from Bank of America, their analyst, was on CNBC a minute ago talking about that. However, in Dallas, in this area, DFW, it hasn't affected prices that much. So we're still seeing a firm market. Houses are selling. What I've noticed is showing traffic is down, and I think that a lot of people now are limiting their showings to maybe their top 3 or 4 houses, and then they're making a decision. We're not seeing the looky-loos going around looking at 14, 15, 16, 20 houses before they make a decision about what to buy. So that's a very telling statistic there. But you know, I'm hopeful that we haven't displaced enough workers and people out of the economy. We can get them put back in the economy. You know, the oil, if you've watched oil lately, you know, I've never seen negative negative prices on barrels of oil, which means the buyers are saying, we don't want any more. You know, you're going to have to pay us money to take it. We can't store it anymore. So, you know, unfortunately, none of us can really get around and enjoy that cheap gas because there's no place to go. But, you know, everybody that I'm reading, the pundits, all of the tea leaf readers and the crystal ball readers are suggesting that now that we're going to see either a V or a check mark type of recovery. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's talk a little bit here. I want to shift gears because, you know, if you read about the real estate industry, Al, in the paper, you know, it's really been a lot of blood on the carpet. Open Door just laid off 35% of its people. Compass is now laying off admins and administrative staff. They had a 15% hit. You know, even here at EXP, we replaced, repurposed, and shuffled some people around to the tune of about 15% of our population at corporate. A lot of those people were working on really forward-looking projects, and some got moved into Verbella because of the pickup and interest in that wonderful company. But the reality is that I don't know about you, but I haven't noticed any changes in the way that we're doing business at EXP. And we're doing real estate every day here. I've got 33 agents on my team now, and we are just busy as it can be. How do you feel since you moved over here with us? What's it been, almost 3 years now? Have you had your 3-year anniversary yet?
Nope, it's 2 years and I think 7 months, maybe going on 8 months now.
2 years and 7 months.
It'll be September.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you think it would be different for your group if you were at a traditional brokerage? What's different about the way things are working for us now?
So, you know, prior to coming to the EXP, I had my own independent brokerage. You obviously had a great part in coaching me to that point. In 2017, I moved that brokerage and merged it with EXP for a few reasons. One, the cloud brokerage idea really wasn't the biggest reason why I did it, but it turns out that it might be the biggest reason. I just didn't know it at the time. I did it because I felt that the benefits for my agents were there, and that if they saw this model, I don't know why they would really stay with Stasek Real Estate Experts. So I said, can't beat them, join them. Like, this is a great model. The coolest thing was I overlaid my brokerage with all that. To answer your question, what would it be like? Well, we would be more localized versus national. Now we have a huge reach that we didn't have when I was a small boutique brokerage in Cleveland. Literally just yesterday, I was on a Zoom meeting with the Dave Kennard, our growth. And, what we're focused on right now is growth, where a lot of other brokerages, and this might even include me, had I not made that move 2.5 years ago, we were kind of playing, we would have probably been playing defense right now. After the call that I just had with Dave, we're on offense, and we're just looking to grow even more now. And so obviously, because we're cloud-based, we've been able to, not only just open in all 50 states, but, 5, 6 Canadian provinces, Australia, UK. We just don't have the constraint of having to worry about signing a 5-year lease on a commercial building or anything like that. So we've continued seeing growth. And I think that that would probably be the biggest thing, is that, when you're able to like sit back and be like, what, let's grow more during this opportunity when everyone else is kind of living in fear. That's a big shift in just how you're thinking. And it's because of the model, and it's because of our leadership.
When you said that, I just had a deja vu all over again, right, Yogi Berra? So I was just thinking about, when Glenn was contemplating this company, and you look at the timing, he started this company when the poo-poo was hitting the fan with the Great Recession of 2008, 9, and 10, right?
Yep.
And his whole premise was to create a company that was sustainable through times like these, and not only sustainable, but that could thrive. And you and we were on a call with Chris Bear and Dave Kennard, our co-president with Stacy Anand. Dave's on the growth side, like you were saying. And we are enthusiastically looking to grow agent count at this particular time. It's wonderful to see the people. And, I don't wish anything bad on anybody in this business, but there have been a lot of companies that have had to just swing the axe. And, there are agents out there right now that are kind of like deer in the headlights and really don't know what hit them and so forth. What would you say to an agent right now, Al? What would you offer them as to why they should perhaps look at EXP if they've just been displaced?
If they've been displaced?
Yeah, if they got, like, if say somebody that got cut or let go. Look, Redfin laid off a bunch of agents. Open Door again. They had a huge cut there in the number of agents they had.
Yeah. So I think that it's a great time. And again, this kind of goes back to the lessons. You asked me what lessons I learned in 08, 09, and these are lessons you don't want to ever have to live over again. But the thing that it forces you to do if you find yourself in a spot where you got laid off, you're an agent, and you were in one of those paid positions, it is a good opportunity for you to really step back a minute and reassess where you're at. Ask yourself some better questions of where you want to be in the next 5, 10 years. Where do you want to position yourself? And why look at this company? Well, I would say this: looking at the leaders who have joined this company, prior to even myself joining and even you, but let's just look at that point moving forward. All of the top it's like number one team after number one team, number one brokerage after number one brokerage. These are companies that are just selling literally thousands of homes. And why would they, after building their brand, building everything, still move their brand and keep their brand, but move it over to our platform? There has to be a reason why they're doing it. And so I would just ask a better question. And then does that fit in and help you in your 5-year or 10-year? You got to really look at it and take the blinders off. I mean, let's face it. I wouldn't do it. It took you, I think, a good 6 months to break through to my thick head when you were trying to tell me about this. I mean, I literally remember saying, Cliff, I really love you, man. Appreciate everything you've done for me in my career, but I have zero interest. I have my own brokerage. Why would I move my brokerage to, what's this called? ESP Realty? I didn't even know how to pronounce it. And you stayed persistent and said, look, I remember what it was. Would you just tell me I'm crazy? Tell me if I'm nuts. Maybe I made a mistake in joining. And obviously that was a great little way of getting me to actually open my mind up and open the gates up and actually look at the model. When I looked at the model, it solved problems for my agents that I couldn't solve as an independent brokerage. It solved problems for me as a broker that I was trying to solve that I couldn't really do on my own. My agents now have retirement plans that they're taking advantage of right now. If they work for EXP for the next 10, 20, 30 years, they're actually going to have something a sellable asset when they're done, and not to mention the ability to grow their revenue share if that's something they choose to do, which, a large portion don't, and that's fine. They still love it. So that's what I would tell them. I'd say, don't be the person that says no till you have to say yes. Say no. Say yes until you have to say no, and go down the path like I did of becoming curious.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember some of the authentic, tough conversations that you and I had, and I would say at a minimum you were closed-minded at first. But I think that you're a smart guy, Al. I mean, you've had some huge accomplishments in this industry. I think that you're more just of a man who likes to do his due diligence. And I know that you spent a good bit of time vetting the company, looking at it just like I did. I mean, I had EXP insomnia for the first 3 days when Brent Gove introduced it to me. And then I kind of went into a hiatus. I spent 2 weeks just buried in the company's financials and all the SEC reports and calling people. I remember having a conversation with my good friend Jeff and Marcy Willems out in Tempe, and just trying to really understand what was going on. So it's totally okay that it doesn't make sense at first, because I thought the model was complicated when I first learned it. Even though I got introduced to profit share at Keller Williams, it really never amounted to anything. I had no idea the effect that revenue share could have on my life and the lives of other agents. I mean, it's the most profound change that I've seen in our industry in the last 20 or 30 years, probably since Keller Williams came around and introduced profit share. But there's a big difference, and I don't think it's a secret that right now there's not a lot of profits in many organizations to pay out. However, I just yesterday was a happy birthday every month for us. We had revenue share day, and I would venture to say that most of us, it was probably the biggest check that we've ever received from the company. I'm very, very happy about that. Thankful, Glenn. Thank you very much for making this happen here and all the wonderful leadership that we have. But the reality is that it's a disruptive thing that happens that is going to shine in moments like this. Everybody that came into the real estate industry, and I'm not going to bash the iBuyers, but for all practical purposes, those guys have hung it up and have left the field here. So we'll see if they come back or not. I know a lot of the people I follow, Mike Dilpreet and Rob Hahn, and some of the guys say it's temporary, they'll be back. But it's a very difficult model to manage. And the funny thing about it is that the people that lead those companies really have very little real estate experience. So it remains to be seen how this is all going to play out. But we have a huge opportunity here doing what we're doing. Al, let me go back a little bit, because if we talk about sort of when you first joined EXP, and we all started out with 0 people in our revenue share group, but you have built an amazing organization. You partnered with some good friends of ours, and you guys have really led the way in terms of how to attract and how to grow agents. What is it that you think that the agents that you or guys are attracting, what is it that, what do you hear is the main reason why they're coming these days?
It's opportunity. I think that people definitely come for different reasons. Some people come for opportunity. Some might be at a brokerage that, you know, has very unattractive splits and they're automatically going to get a pay raise and they find themselves never coming into the office. So they're not seeing value where they're at. For us, and you specifically asked about some of the bigger players that have joined us in the last 2.5 years. Every one of those people joined us. None of them had to. Let's just say that and get that out there. There isn't one person, including myself, who you were speaking about. You didn't have to. You're a broker in Texas, and you can, if you wanted to open up your own shop or open your own shop tomorrow, you could do that just like I can. Michael Reese and Jay Kinder had their brokerage. They could open up tomorrow. They both are brokers. And so I think it's important to say that none of us had to. We were all successful in our own right. We were all living really good lives. We saw an opportunity that just did not exist in our current business model. And we were trying to create those opportunities for everyone, as you're probably well aware of. And, you know, when I saw it, as Jay says, I couldn't unsee it. And you showed that to me. So I have a debt of gratitude to you, Uncle Cliffy, for making me see the light. But what it really boiled down to is I could not, after I went down the path of trying to really prove this thing, like, there's no way this could be for real. And every turn I went around, every bend, I found an answer that I wasn't expecting. I'm like, wow, they figured this out. Holy crap, they actually thought of this too. And that's kind of how I brought, I brought the idea back to Jay Kinder again. And I really wasn't saying, Jay, you should really check this out for yourself. I was saying, Jay, talk me out of this, because I'm literally about to transfer all 10 of my licenses in Ohio to eXp Realty and move my brokerage over. Meanwhile, Jay, Mike, and I were supposed to partner with their partner program. They're expanding across the country. And so they were a little upset that they're like, I thought we were going to be partnering in Cleveland with Al, but when they looked at the model, they knew right away when they looked at it a certain way that this is our opportunity to have a bigger impact on more agents and partner with even more agents than we ever could imagine. Partner with more agents than we could ever imagine selling coaching to. You've been a coach, you work for them, you've worked for other coaching companies, you probably have your own coaching company. You all know that coaching agents can be great, but there's churn. There's churn, just like, a lot of reoccurring deals, like, you end up losing clients, you got to replace clients. There's always this constant treadmill that you're on. And it's so much more fulfilling for both sides when you're just partners and we have a stake in people. So when people choose to come join us and partner with us, they're not just doing it because of EXP, but they're also doing it because, we're helping them grow their business. We're helping them solve problems. Normally, they'd have to pay you, Cliff, literally $20,000, $30,000 a year to hire Cliff Freeman as a one-on-one coach. Now, they can join Cliff in his revenue share group, and Cliff will help them whenever they have a problem getting unstuck. The truth of the matter is the problem with the coaching industry is that it's unaffordable to probably 90% of the agents that are out there. 10% of them can afford to stroke that check. So there's a lot of agents that they just have to figure it out in themselves. And what ends up happening is they give up and they drop out.
Exactly. Well, one thing that just really resonates with me, and I guess Jay started this, but it's the whole concept of one big fire. And so let's talk a little bit about how do you take all these people, you put them together. In a normal brokerage, they're not going to really be one big fire. They're going to be a bunch of little fires. Why is it at EXP they can become part of one big fire?
Yeah. So, in 2000, I want to say it was 15. Yes. 2015, we were in Aspen at our mastermind, and, Mike and Jay were in the thick of trying to launch this new business model called Partner that essentially would have kind of taken over from the coaching model and merged that with a brokerage model. And he stood up and addressed all of the masterminds because that's who he wanted to partner with. and said, what do you think would happen if we could put all of our fires together and make one big fire? And I love replaying that because he had no idea that one big fire would be actually happening here at eXp Realty. We thought that we were going to have to go out and create that, which is what we tried doing for probably about 2 good years, 18 months or so. And so, obviously it sounds really cool. One big fire. Yeah, that's just a really cool name. But the truth of it is there's the magic behind it. I just never would have imagined how really magical it is when everyone's in financial alignment and even if they're not in our revenue share group, and I mean, we'll literally help anybody, but you don't see that in any other brokerage. Now there's nice people that are abundant thinking in other brokerages. I'm not stating that. What I am stating is that because of not just revenue share, but the fact that everyone's an owner in this company, we all have a stake in seeing this company do well. It changes the behavior. When you change the compensation alignment with leadership and everyone, you bring it from a top-down structure to everyone's playing on the same field, and we can put all our fires together and make one big fire. It changes people's attitudes. It raises their gratitude level to levels that you just wouldn't even think would be possible. So, man, when I see it, and I'm fortunate enough that I get to witness it every day in our groups and everything, I just sit back and smile. I got to pinch myself. And I get to do things like this and be on your podcast and stuff like that. And I would not 2.5 years ago been able to predict. And if you would have told me that we're where we're at right now 2.5 years ago when I joined the company, I would have said, you're full of it.
Yeah.
I really
I hear you. It's crazy. A lot of the people that are in our peer group now are friends, people that we do business with on a daily basis. Used to be just names that I had heard of in the past and never really had been able to spend much time with them or anything. And now, I mean, I look at my Rolodex and it's like, I must have 90% of all the top producing agents in the country in my phone. And many of them are here, that collaborate with us on a daily basis. And so the extent of which we can access the brilliant minds of other people in this industry is incredible. I remember when I worked for a franchise, that little market center was our world. And that was the extent of the expertise that we could access unless we bought their coaching, their own private label coaching at that brokerage, right? I can get on the phone now, and a good example is like the video that Kyle Whistle just did on how to do real estate videos. I mean, here's a guy that's the number one in the country, bomb video user, and he's just pouring out, for an hour, telling everybody exactly what he does and how to do video correctly in real estate. I mean, that's just unheard of. The contribution, the mindset of contribution that people come from here is like nothing I've ever had. We experienced it a little bit at our masterminds at Reese and stuff. Those were wonderful times, but it was a small group. And now the group is so much larger, and the influence that you and me and Mike and Jay and everybody, the lives that we can touch now are so many more than they were in the past. It's really been incredible. So let me let's now. I want you to get your crystal ball out, Al, if you would. Tell us, in your opinion, what you think things at eXp and in the real estate business will look like 3 years from today. When we look back 3 years at this coronavirus thing, what's life going to be like then?
I wasn't prepared for this question, Cliff.
I didn't tell you they were easy, brother.
I believe in 3 years we will be the number one company in the world by agent count and transactions. I believe that 100%. I believe that the real estate brick and mortar office, so to speak, isn't going to completely go away. It's just going to change. It's going to change. I think we're going to see more and more of the shared collaborative workspaces. I think that we're going to see industries sharing those workspaces and collaborating together like we see, such as WeWork and some of the other, but I see more, and I actually am seeing this, physically seeing this, more of the mom and pop, not the big WeWork things that we know what happened with that, but more of the mom and pop shared collaborative workspaces popping up, and they're more boutique-y. And I see, mortgage and real estate and title and appraiser. I just see a more collaborative physical of somebody, we still have agents that love to come in and make calls, some every day, some every other day, but they still love that face-to-face connection. And that's kind of what we built in Cleveland. Our office really, is it a real estate office? Yes, but we have mortgage people, that can use it. We open it up to anybody that wants to use it in our industry or even outside of our industry. So I see more of a mix, more collaborative mix. And that's kind of where I see where we'll be. There's just gonna be more of that. Right now, there's still a lot of traditional real estate offices. And if you were to walk in, and I'm talking, this is pre-COVID-19, if you walk right across the street from where I'm at right now, which is where my office is, and right next door to it, I won't mention names, but there is a very large national brokerage that is located there, and they have a beautiful, I want to say it's got to be at least 15,000 square foot office, and it's a ghost town. And I'm talking, this is prior to the virus hitting and everything. That it was a ghost town then. And so imagine, all the wasted money, they're locked into this giant lease. I doubt if they, knew that this was going to be the case, that they would lease that much space. I think that it's going to, people are going to be using less spaces, dependent upon their business model. Now, if they have a business model that, is required of like a call center and people coming in and making calls in a particular environment, then maybe not. But that's kind of what I see. I see a lot more boutique types of spaces, and I don't see it completely going away, the commercial. I just think it changed how real estate agents are going to be using it, is what I kind of see.
That if you look at the amount of interest that this virus has created with our company, Verbella, corporations and educational institutions, colleges, the U.S. Navy are all looking now for ways to be able to, how are we going to come back here? How are we going to keep people 6 feet apart? If you look at office space right now and you cram all those people that were crammed into bullpens and things like that, how are you going to do that? So I think you nailed it. I mean, the real estate office of the future is going to be mobile. It's going to be people in their cars or people working off their laptop, either in a shared workspace or from their house. And it's funny as you think about that, Glenn Sanford had that vision 10 years ago. He predicted that's where real estate is headed. And it just took a little thing called COVID-19 really to make people realize that.
Hey, I'll tell you where my next real estate office is going to be. It's going to be on a boat in Key West with my favorite cocktail watching the sunset. That's going to be my next real estate office. And thanks to Glenn Sanford and his vision, that's not a pipe dream. That's literally going to be a reality. We can work from wherever, as long as we have high-speed internet, we can operate our business. And that's where you're going to find me. And hopefully you're going to find me there sooner than later. When all this stuff lets up, if it hits again, I want to be quarantined down there with my favorite beverage, with my friends and family. And, I'm going to be in Key West. So you'll know where to find me.
Yeah. Now, Key West, well, you guys have already got another mastermind plan. It's coming up in the BVI, right? British Virgin Islands? Are you going?
Yep. Absolutely. We were literally just talking. I got a call here in a minute, and I'm going to ask her if we can push it back a minute. But literally was just chatting with Holly about that today, and just to touch base with the Ritz to make sure that everything's still a go. It's end of September. I want to say when that event is. You can reach out to Cliff, and he can get you some details. We'll get you a link or whatever, Cliff. But yeah,
just drop it in the comments. Yeah, just drop it in the comments section. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's in St. Thomas. Terrible place, St. Thomas. And yeah, we love going to the Virgin Islands, and And I think we're going to be getting a couple boats and sailing off to the BVIs probably right after that mastermind. So anybody wants to join us it's an amazing group. People go there, and this is a buzzword. I don't want to overuse it, but if you haven't been to one of our masterminds, especially now, because we've actually expanded and opened the room up to more people. It's not just 40 people. I think the last one we had was maybe 100, 120. It's still a small room because we keep the quality there. But people leave there and their lives are changed. It's truly the truth. And I've been attending those since 2012 when they started it. And I haven't missed many. I definitely ain't missing the one down in St. Thomas this year. So 2020 St. Thomas. Yeah, we'll put the link down there in the comments.
And you guys have been gracious enough to always extend me an invitation. I've been remiss. I haven't been traveling much outside of just, hitting the EXP major stuff, and that's about it. But I'd love to come down there and hang with you guys. I took my wife on a cruise. We went through Puerto Rico and hit all those little islands down there and stopped at St. Thomas, and it's beautiful. And that Ritz-Carlton down there is world class, man. I mean, it is really, really fine. Well, Al, hey.
If you go to kinderreestasek.com, I think it'll forward to the place where there's more information. kinderreestasek.com.
Okay. And if somebody wanted to just have a private chat with you or get to know you a little better, what's a good way to reach Al?
Sure. Just go to alstasek.com. All my contact information's in there, and there's a button you can click, Let's Talk. It'll open my calendar up, grab a spot. Happy to help get you unstuck or
check up from the neck up.
Have an open book. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Well, man, I'm sorry. We actually ran over, and I thank you so much for your time. I know you got another call there waiting on you, but it's such a pleasure to reconnect with you, Al. I mean, gosh, you and I, we've been good friends for so many years now. And by the way, I was just going to mention something about Al that maybe not a lot of people know, but he's an avid tennis player and a really good golfer. So if you like a game of tennis or a round of golf, he's always up for it. Just watch out. He might take your money.
Okay. So half of that statement is true. The statement about tennis, yes. Golf, you know that I leave my wallet at home when I golf with you, Coach.
Just when I have my son with me is the only reason, right?
It's always fun. Right. Appreciate you having me on here, my friend.
Hey, man, it's so great to reconnect here, and wish you all the best. And hopefully, man, I'd love to hang with you guys, like I said, in St. Thomas. But, keep up the great work. You guys are just incredible leaders and models for the company. And we're so glad and excited to be, here with you and in business with you. And just thank you so much for all you guys are doing.
Appreciate you having me on, Coach.
You got it, brother. All right. Catch up with you soon. Peace, love, and happiness, brother.
Take care.
You got it.